Yeah, two.
All right. What would I advise an 11-year-old to do when a shoulder wrist area is sore after pitching or throwing? Ice or heat? Anytime you do any type of working out, throwing, training, whatever, you're gonna deal with some level of soreness. That kind of comes with the territory. If it's a general soreness and it's a typical soreness, it's not anything more than it usually is, then there's no really need to worry about it. When it comes to icing or heat, I got to say I've never been an icing guy. When I was in college, we didn't ice, and I always felt that icing made my arm feel tighter. And I've been coaching high school baseball for, I think, 15 years. Two varsity programs, St. Joe's Regional and Don Bosco Prep, two nationally ranked programs. And in all the years that I've been coaching high school baseball, not one single pitcher of mine has ever sustained a serious injury under my care. And a lot of those kids, I would say most of them, were big icers, always icing. And I never discouraged them from icing. But I always asked them, well, why do you ice? I don't know. They really don't. And they it gets rid of the inflammation. And, to me, if my arm's not hurting me, if I don't feel physical pain, I really saw no need to ice. So the more and more kids that weren't icing, we're actually recovering faster. And again, I'm not telling you not to ice. If you're a person that puts ice on your arm and your arm feels great, then who am I to tell you not to do it? But what I am saying is there are so many players I've dealt with over the years that are just, as soon as they're done, we got to ice it. The kid throws a 25-pitch, 60% intensity bullpen, and as soon as he's done, he's loaded up with ice bags. Like, how much inflammation could possibly have come from that? You know what I'm saying? So whether you should ice or not, it's a preference. There was a guy that coined the phrase RICE, which was rest, ice, compression, and what was the last one? Elevation. Okay. 20 years later, the guy who coined that phrase said he was wrong. He doesn't necessarily believe in icing. So again, there's no medical evidence or proof that says icing is better than not icing. It's been that way for a long time. Ice your arm, you feel this, ice your arm. So again, it's a preference. If you feel better from doing it and it makes your body feel right, nobody can tell you not to do it. The soreness, when we're done throwing, we're going to feel sore. How do I get rid of soreness? How would I teach my kids to get rid of soreness? Arm circles, bands. The question is the wrist. Some static stretches. You can work on just. We have videos on all this stuff coming out. But just to let you know, so you're going to feel stretch. You're going to feel some soreness. Make sure that you get your body moving. Make sure that the next day. I knew when I was in high school, after I pitched in a game, I was always told, "Don't even touch a ball today." And I learned that was the worst thing I could do. If the next day after I threw, I would throw, and my arm would recover a lot faster. If I just threw and didn't pick up a baseball the next day and didn't do anything the next day, then my body just got tighter and tighter and tighter. So my goal was always to stay ahead of the soreness, to stay ahead of the tightness. And I felt the more activity that I did, low intensity, the more that I did, the faster I recovered.
Another thing I would add is we have a video series on foam rolling. And if you're not aware of how to do that, huge proponents of doing that. In an ideal world, if we were all big leaguers with an unlimited budget and time, we'd have our own personal massage therapist to work with us each day, but we don't have that. So with a very inexpensive tool called a foam roller, there's huge benefit that you can get out of that. And we have a couple videos that talk about how to foam roll pretty much from head to toe your entire body.